As one enters the dark, dim, ancient atmosphere of our beloved Alumni Hall, we hear the sullen tom-tom of busy typewriters, the clash of swords in faculty offices, the glaring displays of human skulls and bones. Egad, what's that? Standing in almost a precarious position, we find this huge plaster cast of a stele from the jungles of Honduras.
Carl Straub, The Colgate Maroon, 1955. Today, new students who walk through the second floor of Alumni Hall still stare at the two precarious stelae. When the stelae were given, though, in the summer of 1955, there was no Longyear Museum of Anthropology, only the Sociology and Anthropology department displays. The next few years, however, would see the birth of a new teaching museum at Colgate University, and the monoliths were the first step towards an open museum where students could get involved, rather than just observe. The monoliths would soon become probably the most striking and memorable pieces of the Longyear Museum of Anthropology. In 1955, the Sociology and Anthropology department decided to include a series of visual exhibits as an integral part of their teaching program. The idea was that since many of their classes dealt with exotic and foreign subjects, students would benefit from seeing displays related to their material. Some of the very first exhibits were about primitive art, archaeological dating methods, fossil man, the Piltdown hoax, the American Indian, and Mayan art. It wasn't, however, until the mid-50s that the monoliths were added to the collection. The early collections consisted mostly of human skulls and some Stone Age implements. This was to change as the Sociology and Anthropology departments obtained funding and started to branch out their collection. That is when Professor John M. Longyear of Colgate University proposed the creation for a small teaching museum. He advocated a hands-on curriculum where students would be able to see and touch artifacts in the museum. He even went so far to say that work in the museum for a social science major is just as vital as work in a lab for a natural science major. He continued to extol the virtues of a museum.
Consider an institution which has a multitude of collections from all over the world. Or consider us at Colgate, just starting out in this field with only a few specimens and wide gaps in our collections. The beauty of it is that the student derives as much benefit from the latter as from the former. In the well-endowed museum, he learns selectivity. In our case, the student learns versatility.
After the renovation, Professor Longyear's plan was approved, and the second floor of Alumni was transformed into the Museum of Anthropology. This installation consisted of the main hall, the workroom, and for a short while the curator's office. Along with this was the installation and assembling of the Mayan monoliths. From then on, the museum grew and grew. Initially, it purchased big archaeological collections from local archaeologists, but eventually it branched out to other things. Professor Longyear retired in 1978 after being a curator for almost 20 years. And in the 80s, the museum took his name.
As one enters the dark, dim, ancient atmosphere of our beloved Alumni Hall, we hear the sullen tom-tom of busy typewriters, the clash of swords in faculty offices, the glaring displays of human skulls and bones. Egad, what's that? Standing in almost a precarious position, we find this huge plaster cast of a stele from the jungles of Honduras.